Oh, hey, my friends. So today we're going to talk about David and Goliath, and more specifically, facing your own Goliath through learning about how David did it. So the story of David and Goliath has to be probably one of the most inspiring stories in the Bible. Of course, it's so much more than just a boy defeating a giant. It's about faith and courage and trusting in the power of God. Imagine the scene, right? There's this 9-foot tall Philistine warrior, Goliath, who's taunting the Israelite army. Like, they are just in absolute fear. Understandably, it's a giant, right? But then along comes David, this young shepherd who's like too small to even wear armor, and he has no battle experience. He raises his hand and he's like, hey guys, I'll fight the giant. And you know they had to be like, get out of here, kid. Go home. He was either really, really persistent, or they were really desperate, or maybe a combination of both. But whatever the case was, they eventually relented and they were like, you know what, kid? Have at it. Go for it. But here's the thing. David didn't rely on his own strength. He told King Saul, the Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the bear, rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. David knew that the battle didn't belong to him. It belonged to God. That's the first lesson for us. We face our own giants in life. We don't have to rely on our own abilities. Instead, we can trust in God's power to deliver us. As we're talking about this, I want you to think about what your Goliath is today. Is it fear or sickness, or maybe it's a broken relationship, or maybe it's just doubt? But whatever it is, you have to remember this: the battle is the Lord's. Just wow when you think about that whole scene. So an entire army was paralyzed by fear, but David's faith gave him courage. And when Goliath mocked him, David didn't back down. Instead, he declared, you come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty. I mean, that's bold, right? Through that, David teaches us that courage doesn't come from being the strongest or even the smartest. It comes from knowing who fights for you. Before the fight, King Saul tried to dress him in like the heavy armor and get him ready for this battle, but David refused. He said, I can't wear these because I'm not used to them. Instead, he went with what he knew: a sling and 5 smooth stones. That alone is such a great reminder that we don't need the world's tools or approval to succeed. God has already equipped us with what we need, and that is his word, prayer, and faith. When we put on the armor of God, which is truth and righteousness and salvation, and his spirit, it makes us ready to stand against any challenge. Again, David didn't need a sword or an army to win. 1 stone propelled by faith was enough to take down a giant. So this shows us that even small acts of faith can have massive results when God is involved. You don't need to have it all together to do something extraordinary. Just take 1 step of faith. So when the dust settled, David stood victorious, not because of strength, but because of his trust in God. And that very same God who helped David is ready to help you and me today. So no matter what your Goliath is today, face it like David. Remember to trust in God's power, not your own, and let faith be your courage. Use the tools that God has given you. Take those small steps of faith and just watch what God can do.